I thought I had found the perfect man. After years of terrible dates, he felt like a breath of fresh air. The only thing that stood out was how close he was to his mother. At first, I thought it was sweet. I figured she was just a loving mother. Looking back, I should have paid attention. Let me give you some examples. Every day she had lunch at work, she'd call him just to see what he was doing and how he was doing. I totally understand every once in a while, but every day felt like overkill. It made me feel like she was so dependent on him, and he was just as dependent on her. I won't lie, it was a huge turnoff. The second red flag happened on my birthday. Jake had made reservations at a restaurant I'd been wanting to try for months. I spent an hour getting ready. 30 minutes before we were supposed to leave, his mom called. Apparently she wasn't feeling well. Without hesitation, Jake canceled our reservation. I said, "Babe, it's my birthday. Can't one of your other relatives check on her? I want to enjoy ourselves and then check on her when we leave." He said it was an emergency. I figured it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. Long story short, I had dinner by myself. That should have been my sign, but it wasn't. A few months later, we started discussing moving in together. I was excited. We'd been together over 2 years. When I asked him what he thought, he said, "Let me talk to my mom first." I was instantly irritated. "You're a grown man." I laughed because I genuinely thought he was joking. He wasn't. The next day, he came back with a handwritten list. A list. His mother had written down reasons she thought we shouldn't move in together. I couldn't believe it. But somehow I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal. Again. Then came the lunch note. One day I stopped by his apartment while he was at work, which I would do every so often. I opened the refrigerator and saw a meal prep container. Attached was a sticky note. "For my baby," I laughed. This man was 31 years old. 31. And his mother was still dropping off meals and leaving him little love notes like he was 5 years old. When I brought it up later, he got defensive. "She's just being nice, babe." But something about it didn't sit right with me. I was officially over this entire relationship. My last straw was one morning. I was spending the night at his apartment when I heard the front door unlock. I sat straight up in bed and called his name. No response. I checked my phone, and there was no message about him coming home early. A few seconds later, I heard dishes clanking in the kitchen. It was his mother. At 8 a.m. without calling, without texting, without warning. The craziest part? Jake acted like this was completely normal. From that day forward, I didn't spend another night at his place. Fast forward a few weeks later, I was sitting next to him when his phone buzzed. Normally, I respected his privacy, but the message preview popped up on the screen. It was from his mom. The text read, "Do you think she's going to be another problem like the last one?" Later that night, I asked him what it meant. At first, he refused to answer. Then, he admitted the truth. Not only had his mom hated his ex-girlfriend, she had hated every girlfriend he'd ever had. Every single one. And here's the twist. She didn't just dislike them. She actively sabotaged the relationships. She'd criticize them, start arguments, create drama, convince him they weren't right for him, and every time he'd eventually break up with them. Then I asked the question that changed everything. "Why would you allow that?" The room went silent. Finally, he shrugged and said, "She's just looking out for me." That was the moment I knew it was over. Not because his mom was controlling, but because he liked it. He liked having someone make his decisions. He liked never having to stand up for his partner. He liked staying a little boy. A month later, we broke up. 6 months after that, a mutual friend reached out. Apparently, Jake was dating someone new. When I asked how things were going, my friend laughed. Then she said, "His mom already hates her." Honestly, I wasn't surprised, because the hardest part wasn't losing him. It was realizing there was never room for me in a relationship that already had 2 people in it. At this point, was he just using me for sex? I would never understand a mama's boy.